Hey everyone, Brian Beeler from StorageReview, flying solo for the moment because I'm about to unveil some very important boxes here and see what's inside. This is my build for a challenge that we're working on. Kevin, the intern, and I are going head to head to see who can build the best TrueNAS system with an $800 budget. Now that doesn't account for storage. We've got a ace up our sleeve for that one. We've got a partner who's going to help us out there, which we'll get to in a moment. But we each had the same budget and are going about this in similar but different ways. You can see I've got a mass of components here, which we'll go through and take a look at my design decisions. Kevin has got his own, which we'll go to next, and then we'll show the intern, which all I've been told is that his smells a bit like cat urine, so I don't know what that means, why it happened, but we've all had to make certain compromises, at least that's what I believe, to hit our $800 budget sans storage. So I'm just going to get into my pile and sort of walk you through what I selected and why. And to be fair, I solicited comments and feedback from some of the experts I know that use TrueNAS a lot about what would work well, what components would play well with this, and went to some friends online to see, you know, if you were going to do this, what would you do? And the feedback was pretty universal. Let's go for a build that has a good amount of storage, because that's going to be meet the capacity needs of most small businesses or home labbers or whatever, but leave a little bit of room for some kick in there, and that's what I've done. So I'm starting out with the fractal node. Now this was a strong recommendation from my buddy Blaze up in Canada. Fractal's been in this game for a long time, and it's certainly a favorite amongst enthusiasts. Now this guy was like 80 bucks, so it's you know, arguably a little bit more than maybe I wanted to spend for an enclosure. Believe me, I considered going with just a PC chassis, which would have saved me a lot of money, but the way I roll, I think style points count for something. Vince will edit this struggle out. Alright, so off the bat, I've got to say this thing is pretty well packed and feels good. The last time I bought an enclosure was about 25 years ago. In fact, the last time I assembled a PC of any kind has been ages, and so this is going to be quite the adventure for me. And it's kind of funny because you might ask, okay, well, hey Brian, if you're not used to building these systems, why would you do this? And my answer is that I know Kevin's going to take the lazy way out. I can already read his mind and know what he's going to do before he does it.
While Brian and the intern have gone a more creative approach, I took the approach that works.
So I know I can beat him, I think, on performance. All right, so here's our enclosure. This thing's pretty nice. Oh man, it's got some big fans in it, which is good. 3 total. So this is going to be our foundation. I'm pretty excited about that. Okay, so now what's going inside this little chassis? I've made another interesting design decision, and I got that from Newegg, I believe. So let's take a look. All right. So this was another recommendation to help me from a simplicity standpoint. Now sure, you could buy a board, you could buy a CPU, you could get all the goop and the heat sink and all that stuff. That's all great. I wanted to keep it simple, but I also wanted to lean a little bit enterprise. So I picked up this Super Micro board. Now this is an AMD board, and it comes with an integrated chip. Here's a bunch of cables. I don't know what to do with those. We'll have to figure that out later. This board I'm pretty excited about. Now we've got 8 cores, 8 threads on this build. And so I went for the up model. They make more inexpensive versions of this, but I think this is going to be the answer to my performance needs in terms of being able to beat Kevin. All right, so we've got Obviously CPU on here. We've got 4 DIMM slots, which is great. And importantly, we've got 1 PCIe slot. Now, I'm going to need that for networking. This guy does have 4 onboard ports, but they're only gig, and so that's not going to get the job done. It does have a little management port. It's got the A-Speed chip in here for management, and one of my secret weapons is that it's got an NVMe M.2 slot, and that is what I hope saves my bacon when it comes to performance. I know, it'd be flashy to go with an all SSD build. I did consider that. That is a bit more my pace, but I wanted to also meet the capacity needs. I've got another box from Supermicro. I don't remember what that is, so we'll come back to that. We've got one of my first compromises. So RAM is expensive, and the first one I ordered was coming from China. I didn't realize it when I bought it on eBay. That's something you got to watch out for, is when will it show up. It was going to be a month and a half to show up, so I canceled that when I found this guy, and I think this is going to really be perfect for my needs. I wanted to get 16 gig so that we had enough room for TrueNAS to really stretch out. You really need a minimum of 8 to make it work well. So I wanted to get 16 to make it work really well. And these are ECC DIMMs. They should be, oh, these are Hynix. I'd forgotten even what I bought. These came out of an HP system apparently. They've got a little HP sticker on there. But I've got 2 of these fellas, 8 gigabyte DIMMs for 16 total. So we should be in good shape there. Another compromise I had to make in terms of budget saving was the NIC. Now, I know Kevin has a propensity to go after high-speed NICs. I don't think he can afford a 100 gig NIC in this build.
So while everyone else might be leveraging 10 gig, I have a 100 gig card because I'm crazy.
The intern probably doesn't know enough. He probably used gigabit on board and thinks that's good enough, which it's not.
I decided to get I think this is a Chelsea, not sure the model number, but it's a dual SFP Plus.
But I had to do better, so I went on another eBay excursion. Okay, so eBay is really great when you want to save money. I got this fella for a 10 gig card for $22, I think. But as soon as I took it out, you shouldn't hear rattling. This is what I get for saving money by buying a used NIC on eBay. Oh, there's pieces falling out everywhere. The little supports for the heatsink have broken off in shipping. This one still has 3 and is pretty good. There's more pieces falling out. This one has 1 or maybe half of 1. So we're gonna have to engineer a solution to keep this heatsink on if we want our 10 gig NIC to perform. So, I guess I could send it back and wait another couple weeks, but we don't have time for that. Lesson learned, I guess. This is just what we deal with. Let's hit the Supermicro box. I remember buying, oh, right, okay. So I bought this cable on Supermicro. It was a $5 cable. I didn't actually know Supermicro sold parts directly. I know that now. Lesson learned. They had the best price on this. It was a little $5 guy. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what it is or why I needed it. I just was reading that I do need it, so I have it. I think it has something to do with, must be power to the motherboard, but this is what happens when you don't build PCs for a while. You get a little rusty. Last thing, one other compromise I made was on power supply. I found one on B&H. It's a refurb or a used or a lightly used and returned or something. Double boxed, so at least they took care of it. But it did save me a lot of money. I got this for 45 bucks. And we will be putting together pieces with all of the build components and pricing and sources, so you can check that out. but I figured the power supply is one of those things. It's either going to work or not work. And, oh my, a little more. Now I did want to try to spice up the power supply a little bit. Thermal Lake Smart 500 watt. It's got this rat's nest of cables. Ah, now I see. This little fella connects to this guy to get me power to the motherboard. See, I knew I needed it, I just didn't know what it did. Initially, I did want to amp up the game a little bit. Thermal Lake makes an RGB version of this. It wouldn't have made it go any faster, but I would have scored a couple more style points. So I'm going to find someone to put this together for me, and we're going to roll over to Kevin's build and see what he's up to.
Hey guys, for this DIY NAS build, while Brian and the Intern have gone a more creative approach, I took the approach that works. It's a HP MicroServer. It's the Gen10 Plus, and it has offered fantastic compatibility across a lot of different operating systems: VMware, Hyper-V, TrueNAS, and it's one where we've known and loved it for a while, so I figured why not. And with this $800 budget we're working with, it actually gets really, really good. So this platform, I believe, with shipping came to us at right around $600, which left a little bit of extra money for some goodies. So while everyone else might be leveraging 10 gig, I have a 100 gig card. It should be a pretty fun build. So I picked the microserver with the Xeon processor, and this guy, I believe, has 8 gigabytes of memory. So depending on my total build cost, I think I have a little bit left over for acquiring another stick of DRAM. But I figure this one, it's smaller. I have a either a 1 or 3 year warranty. None of the other guys have warranties on theirs that would provide a full total warranty solution beyond. I think those guys would have to self-serve their warranty process or mail parts around to fix anything if it breaks. Mine, I reach out to HPE and get a replacement part shipped if required. Then, as a lot of you guys might remember, the microservers include a external power supply. So that is one subtle difference on this build versus what Brian the Intern have. Since theirs are going to have internal power supplies and might be a little bit tidier, but overall nothing's going to come close to the size of this. And when it's pretty nice on this platform, it includes onboard video, a lot of USB connectivity, 4 1 gig ports, and then a slot for ILO management if you want to add that on. It's pretty cheap. And then a single PCI card slot for a half-height card, which will perfectly fit my 100 gig card. I probably should have grabbed a screwdriver, because whoever put these screws first in used the hammer of Thor with a Phillips head screwdriver. They got them on there pretty tight. I'll be back in one moment. Okay, so I am back with a impact screwdriver and assortment of tools to get this thing open. One way or another, it will get open today. So when you start looking at the different solutions that are offered in this price range, it actually gets pretty tough to find a really low-cost multi-bay platform, especially when you want to find one that has the networking that supports your operating system and can handle a number of hard drives. The microserver, as you guys all might remember, offers four 3.5-inch bays. And for boot on this guy, what I'll be doing is leveraging the onboard USB port that's inside the unit for my boot drive. It's while it might not be completely preferred for a boot solution, I'm going to be going with a nice high quality SanDisk USB 3 thumb drive, and my hope is the concerns of going over, if you're using a really low cost thumb drive, you'd be running some problems, but I'm hoping I've mitigated that with going with a quality drive. And then my only installation really comes down to getting this card in, which these cards will ship with a full height adapter on it, so all I have to do is switch it out to the half height adapter, and it will give me 100 gig support in my 4-bay NAS. And you might say why, and my answer is because I'm crazy. And it's also cheap. It gives me one cable to connect. I have to handle the networking for everyone's NAS builds, and this gives me the least amount of things to worry about connecting. And on the other guys, where they might top out at 2 ports of 10 gig each, I mean, they could have gone the approach and tried to swipe a 25 gig card from the lab, because who's going to notice one of many missing? But even there, I'm going to be able to max out whatever my CPU supports before running out of steam. So on here, I swapped out the full height bracket for half height bracket. And once the bracket is in place, I can slide out the motherboard on this HPE MicroServer, which, by the way, it's this platform. The only knock we really had on it is it doesn't support, or doesn't natively offer 2.5 inch bays. Well, I mean, yes, you could use a 3.5 inch to a 4.5 inch, or 3.5 inch to a 2.5 inch adapter for putting an SSD in this. But I mean, that part you could work around, but if they went with a native 2.5 inch form factor, you'd probably be able to fit in more drives. Maybe you'd fit in 6 or 8 individual SATA bays, and it gets even cooler for handling higher amounts of I/O or just leveraging cheap, dense flash. But you can't ask the world of a microserver that you can get down to around $500 with warranty shipped on sale, so it gets a little bit of leeway. So this thing, while everyone else might have odd scents coming out of their power supply,
What are the odds that the power supply blows up?
or dust happening to get blown out, or just go through a lot of assembly fun, mine, I do 2 screws, and I get full access to the inside of this server. And the benefit of this is when installing the PCI card, take out the little blank, slot in the card, and in a matter of minutes, I am basically done with this build. My SSDs will be in shortly, and at that point, I set up a thumb drive to install the operating system, turn it on, and everything is done. So, in the time that I've done this video, my platform is built. It has warranty. It's going to function, well, barring shipping damage, which it doesn't have, but if it did, I would find that out when I power it on for the first time. And I don't even have to worry about someone being able to come in here and take my drives out. There's these nice little locking clips that make sure this the front cover does not get removed without authorization. I don't think the other cases Brian and Intern have support that, but it gives a little security, where in the case of the other guys, sad that mine vastly outperforms theirs. Mine's locked away in the lab. Most of them don't even have keys to the lab. So this is why I like the HPE MicroServer Gen10 Plus and why I picked it. It offers a really nice compact solution. It's around the same size as a 4-bay NAS that you'd find from another NAS vendor like a QNAP, a Synology, or any of the other guys. But running TrueNAS, you're going to have way more feature sets offered to you. You're going to be able to do, you can run ZFS, you can run snapshots, you can compression. This, you'd probably, you could easily run dedupe on it, but you're going to want a bigger RAM footprint. I mean, overall, it's going to probably start to push it a little bit more, but show me a 4-bay NAS with 100 gig and I'll be shocked. But this guy has it. So that is my build for now, and hope you guys liked it.
So this is the part overview for my DIY NAS build. To start with, I found a B550 motherboard from ASRock at Micro Center. It was marked down to about $70. For the processor, I picked up a Ryzen 5 3600. I found a good deal on some RAM. This is 64 gigs of DDR4 3600, some G-Skill Ripjaws, good budget RAM choice. I decided to get I think this is a Chelsea, not sure the model number, but it's a dual SFP Plus. This is a cheap, super cheap old OCZ. It's a 600 watt power supply that I picked up at a computer parts recycling center for $5. I have my 2 USB drives, which I'll be using for installation, a display adapter, and then a Leon Cool 205 case. So that is it for motherboard setup before we put it in the case. Alright, so the next step is putting our motherboard and power supply in the case. And for the case, we picked up a cheap Leon Cool 205 from Micro Center. What are the odds that the power supply blows up? Pretty high.
Chances are high.
All right, so Kevin has joined me, or I've joined him, and we've got all of the builds on the table, and you did exactly what I knew you would do. The Intern did not disappoint with a build that's part excellent, part WTF. And then, of course, I've got mine, which is got my busted 10 gig card that hopefully still works, and I still obviously need to assemble or find someone to assemble this for me. What's your take as we look at these three systems, all of which 800-ish or less, right?
Okay, so the main thing, the main takeaway on this is you and I both have enterprise backgrounds, and the first things that we started looking at were enterprise builds because it's not.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. AMD
you not only
build,
get
buddy.
additional network interfaces on board, but you get things like onboard VGA. You have a boot device.
I've got out of band system management.
Mine supports if I add the card, but I spruced for 100 gig on mine. So
I've got AMD Epic. Mine has more processing power than your two combined, I bet.
I think we looked at the clock speed and cores, and this one came out.
I've got 8.
Actually, I think his might have beat it, but
his smells like cat urine for some reason.
So
why is that?
Well, so my point though is with consumer boards, unless you go for a cheaper platform with integrated graphics, generally they don't have any onboard video. You have to add on a graphics card. And what Ben realized during his build is you need to have a graphics card for the system to even turn on. And
so what did he even go with here? Because it's got two display ports, I think, or one HDMI, one display port.
He went with an old gaming card, which is found in all TrueNAS products.
What about his ECC RAM?
He doesn't have it either.
What about a case that is small and easy to put away in a closet?
I could put my case inside of
You
this
could
case.
fit the cat in his case that probably made a little accident. All right, so that's Ben's. His does have a neat see-through side panel, which we've removed to limit the glare on the video. So he does have that.
Stylistic. More RAM.
How much RAM does he have?
I think he might have had either 16 or I think he had 32 gig.
I found a good deal on some RAM. This is 64 gigs.
I've got 16, so I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah, I got 16, and I think my budget allows me to steal a piece of RAM out of the lab, but we'll find that one out later.
But overall, it's a nice case. That's what I was thinking about initially, was going with a PC case because they're just so much less. Plus, he even ponied up extra for the glass side panel. That's not free.
He did not pony up for a ATX motherboard adapter for the back of his case.
No, it's
his open box did not include one.
It's wide open. The crevasse there is gaping, so that will collect dust bunnies and other such fun things over time.
But overall, it came down to we have enterprise background experience, and we realized that most of the platforms that we're going to be looking for are going to include by default the items that you need to build a standalone server. He kind of took a different approach of faster CPU, maybe faster RAM. And
oh, what's his networking? He did get a card in there.
So I'm looking at this card. I have no idea what the network card is.
It's got 2 ports on the back. I can't tell either. All right.
I've never seen a card that looks like that, so I'm not sure which one that is.
We'll have to roll back the tape and see. We have not watched his build and don't know all the stuff that's in there, obviously.
I decided to get I think this is a Chelsea, not sure the model number, but it's a dual SFP Plus.
Let's talk about compromises that you and I had to make. What do you feel like with your microserver is the biggest compromise?
Nothing compared to yours.
Oh, get the hell out of here.
Well,
one PCIe port because you don't have some other stuff on board, I guess.
Well, so I'm looking at my build versus yours. We
Yes.
both have the same number of bays.
No, I have an extra one because I've got the NVMe drive.
Yes, but
that will be, I think, the difference.
But you can't really use it for anything because what else are you going to use for boot?
Well, we've talked about this. So we're considering USB boot in these systems, which is not recommended but does work. So
how much was your motherboard?
I've forgotten now, but it was like somewhere near 600.
Okay,
Or
so
549, I think.
your motherboard alone
Yes.
was the same cost as my entire thing shipped.
Yes, but look how awesome this is. Look at this. It's awesome. It's got. I've got 4 memory slots. You only have 2, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, so I could only afford 2 DIMMs, but I could buy more memory.
So really, the advantage your platform has a little more on the RAM side.
Yes.
But it comes down to you don't have to buy an additional card for your out-of-band management.
Right.
And
NVMe.
NVMe if you want to leverage
NVMe and 4 drives. Now, the one other compromise with this case is drive accessibility is a little bit difficult. Come on, buddy. There aren't any front drive bays. So you've got to take off the enclosure to get to them.
So I think mine was
Fractal does have cases with front bay access, but it's a little more
Look
expensive.
how hard it is to get to my drive base. And they even include ejector buttons.
Right, but you have only one of your 2 RAM slots filled that I can see, and you have no SSD boot in your SSD or NVMe in your system. So I would.
Well, here, do you want to see how easy it is to install my motherboard or reverse install it?
Your motherboard
So I'm looking
or your
at
NIC?
yours.
What are you looking at?
Well, that's the thing. That's the beauty of it.
Right.
All of it.
Yeah, I understand. You bought a little tiny server. I bought the parts to make a little tiny server.
Yeah.
And sometimes you make compromises.
Yes. So I think overall, as we're looking at these, the big takeaway is you have to kind of look at what you're trying to get out of the platform build as you start working through it. And while it's not impossible to find a 4-bay server or an 8-bay server.
Wait, you did put a 100 gig card in this thing?
Yes.
I knew you would do that.
So there's some takeaways though, and a lot of it comes down to it's not difficult to find a 4 and 8-bay server. The problem comes down when you start trying to do it at a particular budget or price point.
Well, right, because we looked at that little Lenovo M83, turned that into a 2-bay NAS with SSD boot, and that total build was $160 something, and that was pretty impressive. Not counting storage.
I should have done that and like a cluster of them.
Well, you could get 3. You could have gotten 3 of them, clustered them, and had resilient NAS storage. Okay, but we also teased, or I did at least earlier, about a hard drive partner, a drive partner in general. And so my drives have come in already, and this is my moment where I think I'm going to shine. So we're working with WD on these builds. They sent me 4 of these 10 terabyte hard drives, and they're not just WD Reds.
The Red Plus.
They're the Red Plus. And so we actually haven't seen a lot of these around, so I'm looking forward to that. So that's going to give me 40 terabytes and WD Black SN850. And what's special about this WD
It'd be a
Black?
fantastic boot drive that blinks.
Okay, well, we're gonna figure that out. Remember I said I haven't built a PC in 25 years? I just wanted to fill all the slots with cool stuff. This does have the gaming heatsink on it, which is pretty cool, and it's got RGB for light control. The only sad part of that story is that you won't be able to see it in my chassis.
Yeah, you're not gonna see much at all.
No, but Ben could have benefited from this drive.
He has lights in that.
And maybe, yeah, I know, I'm sure. And maybe I'll share my drive with him.
So who's your VAR for warranty support?
What do you mean?
So like if something breaks down the road, who do you call?
Well, why? First of all, why would something break?
Well, I mean, look at the person's...
All right, each of my... Don't break my neck! Like, any more than it's...
Look at this. This thing's missing. I'm going to have to glue this thing together so it works.
All right, listen. This has got warranty.
Through who?
Through Supermicro.
How many years?
I think 3. This has got a 30-day replacement warranty from B&H.
Okay.
But it's probably already been 17 days, so we should probably hurry up and make sure that works.
Yes.
This I could probably have sent back to the guy on eBay.
Was that from the United States?
This one was. The first one was a China problem. The DRAM should work. Hard drives will be warranted through WD. This case without front bay drive access will have some sort of warranty. So I'm covered.
Okay.
What do you have?
HPE.
What do they got? 1 year, 90-day parts?
No
labor?
I need to check it, but I think it includes either 1 year or 3 years on this particular build. I think with the Xeon build, it might be 3 years, and it might even be on site. I need to check.
All right. So on site, I wonder what support Ben's got. Half of Ben's components are used, so...
Well, I'm looking at it, and it's like...
discount.
There's dust across the devices, so I'm assuming his warranty might have expired like 4 or 5 years ago on some of the devices.
All right. So the next step is for someone to put my system together, put the storage in. We're going to get storage for Ben's system, storage for Kevin's system, and then we're going to do the performance showdown and see who's got the best build. So until then, thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back with more on these builds soon.